Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Well, greetings, friends, and welcome to this November 6th, 2013 edition of Nightcast. I'm sorry we didn't have our microphone on as we began the show, but hopefully you are hearing me now. Again, this is the November 6th, 2013 edition of Nightcast, and tonight we'll open up the news over in the Middle East with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry having traveled there, trying to, as the news lead on this puts it, breathe new life into the Israeli-Palestinian peace process 3 months after the launch of formal talks. He's met the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Bethlehem. The talks, due to start next April, have shown little sign of progress. Emily Buchanan reports from Israel.
American Secretary of State's first act to pay tribute to Israel's former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, assassinated after he reached a peace agreement with the Palestinians nearly 20 years ago. With such strong forces opposed to peace and the current talks already faltering, John Kerry is still adamant progress is possible.
I come here without any illusions about the difficulties, but I come here determined to work with leaders, with the Prime Minister, with the President of the Palestinian Authority, to try to find a way forward so that Israel can live the dream.
It took months to persuade both sides to reopen peace talks after a nearly 5-year break. Now the discussions appear to be stalled, and Israel is blaming the Palestinians.
I'm concerned about their progress because I see the Palestinians continuing with incitements, continuing to create artificial crises, continuing to avoid and run away from the stark decisions that are needed to make a genuine peace.
Hours later, Mr. Kerry was in Bethlehem with the president of the Palestinian Authority. The talks have all been in secret, but it's reported one session broke down because of the thorny issue that haunts all diplomatic efforts: settlement building. Israel continues to build on land captured in 1967. Most countries see it as illegal, but Israel doesn't and plans more construction. Palestinians see this as a ploy to undermine the peace process and make the two-state solution unworkable. In Bethlehem, many vented their anger that the talks have gone ahead while settlements still expand. John Kerry has announced an additional $75 million in aid to boost public support for peace negotiations, but it looks as if progress will be painfully slow. Emily Buchanan, BBC News.
Well, friends, they call this a peace talk, P-E-A-C-E, peace talk. But really, when it comes down to it, the argument relates to a P-I-E-C-E, peace talk, peace of Israel. The Palestinians want what Israel rightly won in war. They want it back. Before they'll even begin to have a peace talk. But, one thing that puzzles me, and I wish somebody would tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, but, the expression, let a sleeping dog lie? Why go over there and push things if they don't want to talk about peace and everybody's just going along merrily along? Well, then leave things well enough alone. But you stir up the mix, and you just create problems from the talk. But this next video report will show, friends, what I mean about it being a PIECE talk, for a peace of Israel, And they done tried that. Learn a lesson from history. Israel gave away Gaza, and what happened? Palestinians lobed missiles from Gaza into Israel by the hundreds and thousands. So it's just going to be a repeat of the same thing. If Israel gives away more land, it's not going to create PEACE, peace. It's just going to be that Israel will have given up a PIECE of their land they won in war. And the problem it's not a modern day problem only. The real problem goes all the way back to the time of Abraham and Sarah and the Egyptian handmaid Hagar, who had Ishmael, who is the father, the progenitor of the Arab Palestinian people. And the row between Ishmael, son of Hagar, and Abraham, and the legitimate son of Abraham with his wife, Sarah, Isaac. And Isaac had the son Jacob. We were talking about last night how Jacob has a twin brother named Esau, who has become modern-day Turkey. Esau, Edom, Turkey. Excuse me, friends. Let's go for this video with Yolande Knell reporting from the Jordan Valley.
Harvest time is the busiest time of year at this Palestinian farm in the Jordan Valley. It's hot, dusty work gathering dates, but they're a valuable crop. Although this family business isn't as profitable as it used to be. Date production shows up sticking points at the heart of the conflict with Israel.
The biggest problem facing the Palestinian farmer is the shortage of water. He does not have the same amount as the Israeli settler farmer. Our market is restricted. Israel controls everything.
This vast valley adjoining Jordan is dotted by date palms. Most now belong to Jewish settlements, built after Israel captured this fertile stretch of land in the 1967 war. They export their dates all over the world. The settlements are widely seen as a breach of international law, yet Israel rejects this. It says this area is strategically important.
The Prime Minister and the government, most of them, want that the Jordan Valley will be under Israeli sovereignty, because something will happen between the Arab country and Israel. That will be the difference line.
However, as peace talks continue, Palestinian officials are clear that the Jordan Valley should be the eastern border of their future state. All the signs are that the Jordan Valley is proving to be a formidable obstacle in negotiations to try to end this decades-old conflict. Israel insists it must stay in control of this border zone for the sake of its own national security. But the Palestinians desperately want to be able to develop this land. It's thought that increasing farming here could boost the Palestinian economy by millions of dollars each year. Peace mediators are looking at ways to overcome Israel's border fears.
In Area C, which is 60% of the West Bank, the Palestinians have got to be able, step by step, to develop it. Along the Jordan Valley, you have immensely rich agricultural land. It's hard to see, frankly, how in the future you're going to have a Palestinian state that doesn't include that.
Back at the date farm, the final sorting is underway. The owners believe the time is ripe for a solution to their problems. Israeli and Palestinian negotiators have the future of all Jordan Valley residents in their hands. Yolande Knell, BBC News, in the Jordan Valley.
And Yolande Knell will have another report. Our next report also comes from the Middle East, where in today's news, former Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat is reported. There's a report out saying he may have been poisoned with radioactive plutonium, according to a Swiss forensic report obtained by Al Jazeera. His medical records say he died in 2004 from a stroke resulting from a blood disorder. But his body was exhumed last year amid continuing claims he had been poisoned. Here's Yolande Nil again, reporting on this story.
Certainly, if you read this 108-page report, it's very comprehensive, and the scientists themselves are extremely cautious about their findings. It's not as strong as Yasser Arafat's widow might have liked, coming out saying only that it moderately supports the idea of polonium poisoning as the cause of Yasser Arafat's death. But it does find in samples of it took from his remains, which were exhumed last year here in Ramallah, up to 20 times higher than expected levels of polonium-210. But the scientists are very clear that after 8 years in the ground, the samples were not as good as they would have wanted. That polonium-210 has this very short half-life. It deteriorates very quickly.
How sensitive is this report likely to be in the region, Yolande?
It's extremely sensitive, and it's probably no coincidence it comes at the time when the US Secretary of State John Kerry is here trying to get peace talks restarted. There's indications that they may have stalled, trying to put some fresh momentum into them. But ordinary people across the Middle East have long wondered what happened to Yasser Arafat back in 2004. The circumstances of his death at that stage, which was towards the end of the second Palestinian Intifada or uprising, were very mysterious. Israel has consistently denied that it had any involvement in his death and has felt compelled to come out with this further statement from the Foreign Ministry this evening, saying that the results of these tests are, in its words, more soap opera than science.
And friends, I have the video of Mrs. Arafat expressing her shock and anger. This video is courtesy of Al Jazeera.
I felt that I'm mourning him again. I was in a shock. I felt the anger, shock and anger and huge sadness. And I was remembering his last days at hospital, how he was trying to fight. He has fought all his battles, and how difficult it was to fight his last battle. My daughter and myself will not stop. We have, this is very important, to separate the political aspect of what the Palestinian Authority is doing, negotiations, and the crime of Yasser Arafat. It's a separate subject. We have to continue regardless what is asked from us politically. Political peace process will go on their side, and the investigation of a very shameful crime like this crime has to go on another side, on another path. I was talking to David Barkley, the very important international forensic expert, and he said, yes, of course, this must have been put in his tea or in his coffee or in his water, and somebody who was near him must have given him his this. So it's so difficult to doubt, but unfortunately it's somebody of his entourage.
And friends, yesterday I promised you I would try to get the video and show it tonight. I ran out of time last night and wasn't able to show you the launch that India made yesterday of an unmanned spacecraft. And it took off at 9:08 Greenwich Mean Time yesterday from the Satish Dhawan Space Center on the country's east coast. It's set to travel for 300 days, reaching Mars orbit in 2014. Andrew North has this report from India.
3, 2, 1.
Final countdown for India's first ever mission to Mars.
Lift off. Lift off normal.
This, the first stage of a 10-month journey to the Red Planet.
Lift off normal.
At India's Space Centre, there were celebrations for a textbook launch. If all goes well, the Mars probe will start work next September, searching for signs of life. But critics say it won't achieve anything new because it will only orbit the planet and not actually land. India is more interested, they say, in leaping ahead of China, its main rival in a growing Asian space race. There are questions too about the $73 million cost of the mission for a country with millions in poverty. But by comparison, the US spends nearly 10 times as much on similar programs. In total, India spends around $1 billion a year on its space program and has 20 satellites in orbit for communications and weather forecasting. And defenders of India's Mars mission say it will not just be good for the country's image, but boost its development prospects too. Andrew North, BBC News, at India's Space Centre.
And friends, also from yesterday, video from yesterday, a report I wanted to show you with BBC reporter Sanjoy Majumdar asking people on the streets of Delhi what they thought of India's space mission.
India's gearing up for its maiden mission to Mars. Its unmanned satellite, Mangalyaan, is about the size of a small car. It weighs about 1350 kilograms and is being launched from a site in southern India. Now, if the mission succeeds, it's a big moment for India's 50-year-old space program. Now, it's all over the newspapers. Here in the Hindu newspaper has a photograph of the satellite with its golden heat-resistant shield. And the Times of India, in its article Destination Mars, has a lot more details of the actual mission, which at $70 million is the cheapest ever. But that's still quite a lot of money for a country with so many pressing issues. So what do people out here on the street think about it? Excuse me, just wanted to ask you a question. I'm from the BBC. Have you heard of India's Mars mission? Have you? India's just about to send a satellite to Mars. Just wondering, what do you think? Is you think that's something they should be doing?
See, it depends, right? If you look at the present condition of India, the amount of money if they're spending and, funding such things, they should rather, retrace it and spend it on the development of the country rather than making a mark on Mars.
But then again, on the other side, when you think of it, the kind of, such missions have more than just a monetary value to them, in the sense that the fact that you're able, you have the knowledge that your country sent a spaceship to Mars, something that not a satellite to Mars, not something that a lot of countries have done.
A bit of national pride?
There's a lot of national pride involved to it.
Thank you. So a real mixed feeling here, as you can see. There are some who question whether India really should be spending this kind of money. But there are others who think it's a question of national pride. And just to place it in perspective, 2 years ago, China's mission to Mars failed. It's one reason why India is so focused on ensuring it succeeds.
And friends, let's go to China for our next story. For a long time, the question in the news today is this: is Japan falling out of love with the U.S.? Japan has long had a love affair with all things American, but what impact has the slump in the U.S. economy and, on the other hand, China's growing economic influence had on this relationship between Japan and the U.S.? The BBC's Rupert Wingfield Hayes reports from Tokyo.
It's Saturday night and the lowrider crews are out in force, showing off their mad, customised creations. But this isn't America, this is Japan.
Who would have thought you'd find something invented by Hispanic kids in Southern California here in the middle of Tokyo? But Japan's love affair with everything American has been long and deep.
But how long will these Japanese kids keep looking longingly at Uncle Sam? Here in Asia, China is the new #1. Isn't it time for Japan to find a new lover?
Of course, China remains a very important export market for Japan. There's no question behind that. But in relative terms, the U.S. has actually almost come back in a way. If you look at the trade statistics, the U.S. has again overtaken China to become Japan's largest trading partner. So the importance of the United States to Japan has actually come back as significant, very, very relevant, and much more relevant, frankly, today than a few years ago, and more relevant than, say, Japan's relationship vis-a-vis China.
And it's not just trade. What you're looking at here are not soldiers. Officially, Japan is not allowed to have any army, navy, or air force. So what on earth is all of this?
The Japanese government now wants to end this absurdity and call this what it so obviously is, a military. And it wants to use these forces not just to defend Japan, but also to help defend its friends and neighbours. And there's one very simple reason, and it's called China.
The rise of China is making Japan extremely nervous. That makes it want to build up its own military forces. But it also means Japan wants to stay closer than ever to its old lover and protector, the United States. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, in Tokyo.
And friend, let's turn to the United States now, where in the news the big talk is about the affordable health care. You know, it's nicknamed Obamacare. I think when you hear some of these reports, you might be inclined, or, you know, I'm a little inclined to want to nickname the affordable health care the unaffordable health care, from what people are saying in these reports. In this report, the BBC will take you to the U.S. state of Kentucky, which is in the bottom of most national health rankings. And it has an estimated 14.4% of the state's residents lack health care insurance. Now, friends, I know some of you who watch this report believe, as I do, that the great God can heal, and my health insurance is knee time. Now, you know, look, I've been part of my retirement. I've been given Medicare, but I told them, hey, you guys take Plan B back. I don't want it. I'll never use it. I'll never use the Part B that requires drugs and that kind of thing, because that's taboo in my book. Now, that's me personally. I like some of the comments you're going to hear one of the people interviewed in this video makes about, you know, how when the government tries to control your life, including the lives of American citizens in a country that was founded on religious freedoms, and there are few of us who believe in healing by God. I know we're a rare breed, a rare few, you know, and even considered weird, perhaps. But anyway, the BBC spoke with two Kentuckians, each battling their own health issues, about what Obamacare means for them. The national healthcare law, whose recent rollout was marred by highly publicized glitches, offers financial perils and promises. I'm reading you the lead-in for this. Offers financial perils and promises for two men in need of coverage. This report is provided by Vera Sejkowski, and it was filmed by Ron Skeens and edited by Bill McKenna. It's part of the Altered States program, a series of video features published every Wednesday on the BBC News.
Back in 2010, I was diagnosed with a benign brain cyst, and the doctor said this is not an issue, shouldn't be an issue with your insurance. You've had it since you were born. A significant number of the population has something like this, and typically you've died before it gets large enough to actually impact you. So, but unfortunately, even though it's not a clinical risk, it's been deemed an insurance risk.
I have severe asthma, and when it takes a toll, it whoops me up real bad. And it have led me not to be able to work outside a lot, but I'm a very willed and determined man. I love to get outdoors and get dirty, so I like to work.
The Affordable Care Act will negatively impact my family. Currently, what we're paying for insurance for my wife and my children is about $280 a month. That's about what we pay for the catastrophic plan. After it becomes Affordable Care Act compliant, after December of 2014, it jumps the estimate that I got. This is an estimate over the phone with a local insurance company here that we're with. The estimate that we got was $670.
Me being not able to get insurance now, since it's able to get it, I'm happy. I'm thrilled because it's like another barrier in my life that's been lifted. I mean, it's just awesome. Now you have health care where everybody can afford it, so everybody's going to get it regardless if you work in a temp agency or not. You can work at McDonald's part-time, have health insurance.
You know, the Affordable Care Act is divisive. It's legal, but that does not mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's moral. We don't like to be told what to do by our government. We'll do what we're told within reason. I think that's just an American thing.
I believe it's going to help out everybody. I mean, it's still going to be kind of rough around the edges, but hopefully it's going in the right direction.
Well, there's two conflicting opinions. Hey, one glowing ahead of well, we'll see. We'll see. Friends, in Syria, I don't have video on it yet, but I'll at least tell you about it, and then we'll close out tonight. In Syria, 2 bomb attacks, one in a busy square in Damascus, have claimed the lives of at least 15 people and injured many more. The latest violence follows news that the diplomatic efforts to end the 3-year conflict have been delayed again. Since the Syrian conflict began, at least 120,000 people are said to have been killed, and it's estimated that 8.7 million people have been displaced from their homes. That's it for tonight's report. Friends, thank you for joining me, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be back again tomorrow night, Thursday evening, for the last report of the week. We run our reports Sunday through Thursday night, and then we take a break until Sunday night. We have a live stream we do on the weekend on another channel you'll see listed up above on our webpage. If you're watching, we're on some new. If you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, you won't see. You'll have to go to our homepage to see that other channel that I'm talking about. But until next time, friends, this is your host Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth saying so long.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.